Have you ever wondered why some days you wake up feeling light and full of energy, while on other days, even a brief conversation can weigh down your heart, as if an invisible stone were pressing on your chest? We often think it's because of work, the weather, or our own exhaustion. But if you look closely, you will notice this. Most of the emotions we experience throughout the day are shaped by the people we encounter. The voices around us, the looks, the comments, and even the seemingly casual touches. Human connection is not just about conversation. It is like an electric current running through a house. We cannot see it, but it either lights up or short-circuits our soul. Some people walk into a room and the whole space lights up. Others only need to sit beside us, and suddenly the air feels heavy, as if all the oxygen has been drained away. Throughout my life, I have witnessed this truth over and over again. We long for connection. We want to belong. We want to feel seen. But that very desire can sometimes make us vulnerable. We open the door to our hearts too easily, only to find that some guests are not there to share, but to quietly take pieces of our energy away. I remember an autumn afternoon when yellow leaves drifted outside the window. An old friend called me. Her voice was sweet at first, but after just a few minutes, I realized the real reason for the call. It was not to check in, not to care, but to ask for a long list of favors, some advice, a connection, an opportunity. When the call ended, I looked at the cold coffee on the table and realized my energy had been completely drained in less than half an hour. Perhaps you've had similar experiences. A colleague who constantly criticizes you, a family member who belittles you, a friend who only calls when they need something. These small moments add up, slowly becoming a silent burden on your shoulders. What's most frightening is not their presence, but the fact that we've grown used to it. It's like living in a cramped, dark room for so long that we begin to believe the darkness is normal. But take a moment to ask yourself, when was the last time you truly felt uplifted? A genuine hug, a simple word of encouragement, a look that made you feel truly seen. Not the perfect version of yourself, but your real self. These moments are rare, but they remind us that healthy relationships exist, and we deserve them. I don't share this to make you fearful or suspicious. On the contrary, I want you to realize that inner peace is not just a result of personal effort. It also comes from the circle of people around you. The ancient Romans believed that each person carries a small flame within. When placed next to other flames, it burns brighter. But if surrounded by cold winds, it can be extinguished. Carl Jung once spoke of a profound idea, that within each of us lies a collective unconscious, where the energy and symbols of others seep into us, even without our awareness. That's why not everyone is harmless. Some are mirrors that help us see ourselves. Others are masks that make us doubt who we truly are. I remember standing in a large hall, with warm yellow lights cascading down like mist. I was preparing to speak, and hundreds of people were looking up at me. Yet, amidst that sea of faces, just one doubtful gaze made my heart tremble. A single glance was enough to shake my voice. That's when I realized it's not the crowd that shapes our energy, but just a few people who can influence us more deeply than we think. You've probably felt it too. One sincere compliment can lift you up for weeks. One cruel remark can haunt you for years. The power of words, looks, and presence never stays at the surface. It sinks deep into our minds and silently steers the course of our lives, even when we don't want to admit it. So, the first step to finding peace is not to try harder, not to keep telling yourself you're fine, but to start observing your circle. Who makes you feel small? Who makes you feel guilty for setting boundaries? Who makes you feel like you have to play a role just to be accepted? These questions are not easy to answer because we often live tangled in confusion between love and attachment, between care and control. But trust me, your soul always knows. It speaks through your constant fatigue, your unconscious sighs, and that heavy feeling when you enter a room where they are present. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman philosopher, once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." But what he didn't say is this: the quality of your thoughts often reflects the quality of the people around you. If you want to nurture healthy thoughts, begin by shaping your space with the right people. In the next parts, I will tell you about different kinds of people, 10 distinct faces, who, if left unrecognized, will slowly wear down your mind. You may catch a glimpse of someone you know, or perhaps see a part of yourself. Don't worry, This is not about blame. It is a chance to see your circle more clearly. And maybe, just maybe, in this very moment, you'll begin to ask yourself, who have I allowed into my heart, and who needs to step out so I can breathe more fully? There are people who can hurt us without ever raising their voice or starting a fight. All it takes is a single remark, a furrowed brow, or a mocking smile. That alone can plant a seed of doubt inside us. And the most dangerous part is that the seed doesn't sprout right away. It grows quietly, until one day we begin to question if we're truly worthy, if our success is nothing more than a joke. I still remember one evening when I excitedly shared a new project with someone I knew. I was full of joy, like a child showing off their very first drawing. But instead of sharing that joy, she simply said, "Yeah, sounds okay. But does anyone really care?" I laughed it off at the time. But that night, lying in bed, her words echoed over and over again, like a voice bouncing through a dark cave. That is the power of belittling words. They don't destroy us all at once. They are like drops of water falling on stone, slowly wearing down our confidence over time. There are people like that. They constantly criticize, not to help us grow, but to keep us small. No matter what we do, they will find something wrong. You say you've completed a difficult task, and they ask, "Why didn't you do it better?" You share that you're happy, and they say, "Don't get your hopes up." Sometimes, these words come wrapped in the disguise of honest feedback. They say they only want you to improve, but there is no real support in their tone. Underneath, it lies a need to feel superior, an insecurity masked as care. The hardest to recognize is when they turn their belittling into a joke. A passing comment at the dinner table. "Oh, that project of yours probably won't go anywhere." Everyone laughs, and you laugh too. But when you're alone at home, that joke stays with you like a tiny thorn in your heart. You're unsure whether to take it seriously, but your body already has a quickened heartbeat, a heavier breath. Maybe you've experienced a moment like that, when a seemingly harmless comment kept you awake all night. That's what Jung called the shadow, the dark parts of others projected onto you, making you believe they are your own. They don't believe in their own worth, so they make you question yours. When we spend too much time around people like that, we begin to lose touch with our true voice. We adjust our tone to fit theirs. We shrink our dreams to match the narrow frame they've built for us. And, after a while, we no longer know which voice is truly ours, and which is just an echo of their doubts. I once met a woman named Sarah. She was smart, creative, full of ideas that sparkled with potential. But whenever she shared her plans, her boyfriend would smirk and say, "You think you're that good?" At first, Sarah defended herself. She explained. She tried to prove her worth, but over time, she grew quiet. After a few years, Sarah stopped sharing her dreams with anyone. She believed they were foolish. Looking at her, I realized a painful truth. Belittling doesn't just crush a project or a plan. It can destroy an entire creative soul. It is a slow-dripping poison that makes someone stop believing in themselves. And here's something you must remember. Recognition from others is not a requirement for your worth to exist. A flower doesn't need praise to bloom. It blooms because that's what it was made to do. But when we stay too close to those who constantly belittle us, we forget that. We start thinking our beauty only matters if someone nods in approval. I know that sometimes the ones who belittle us are the very ones we love most. A family member, a friend, a close colleague. That's why it's so hard to let go, so hard to say no. But remember this, true love doesn't make you feel small. True love is where you can breathe deeply and stand tall with everything that you are. Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one." If you constantly have to argue with someone about your worth, then maybe the answer is already clear. The right people won't make you prove yourself over and over again. Try to remember the last time you were with someone who made you feel bigger, brighter. Maybe it was an old friend, and just a few words from them made you believe you could do it. Those are the moments we need to hold on to. So how do we deal with those who belittle us? It's not always about cutting them off. Sometimes it's simply about creating space, drawing clear boundaries. Sometimes it's about not letting their words become the truth in our minds. Like standing in front of a warped mirror at a carnival. We know that reflection isn't real, just a distorted image. You deserve to be seen with honest eyes, not twisted ones. You deserve to hear words that help you believe in yourself. And if someone cannot offer that, stepping back is not selfish. It is an act of self-protection. Picture your life as a garden. Every word of encouragement is a drop of water. Every look of belief is a ray of sunlight. The plants in your garden can only grow tall if they receive enough light and water. If you keep allowing hands to pull up the roots or cut the branches, how can the flowers ever bloom? And perhaps most importantly, you must be the first to stop belittling yourself. Because the most dangerous enemy is not the person out there, but the voice inside your head repeating the things they once said. If you let that voice win, then even when no one else is around, you're still trapped in the prison of doubt. But trust me, the key is in your hand. The moment you choose to change how you speak to yourself, you will see that those belittling words were just passing winds. Your worth doesn't come from whether they see it. It comes from your willingness to show up and live as your truest self. There's a certain kind of person that makes almost everyone sigh when mentioned. They're the ones who only come to you when they need something. When they're lonely, they text. When they're in trouble, they call. When they need a connection to open a door of opportunity, they suddenly remember your name. But when you're the one in need of a shoulder, a listening ear, they vanish as if they never existed. What confuses us is how charming they often appear. A warm smile, sweet compliments, a gaze that makes you feel important. But they're like a customer in a cafe who stops by just to charge their phone. The moment they're recharged, they leave. You're left sitting there, realizing the warmth you just felt wasn't really for you. It was just a means to get what they wanted. I once knew someone like that. Whenever she needed advice or comfort, she would call me, and I was always there, willing to listen, spending hours to lift her spirits. But one day, when I was going through a major crisis and reached out to her, all I got was a short message. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I've just been really busy." I remember staring at my screen, feeling like I'd just been swept away by a massive wave, leaving behind a cold, empty silence in my chest. That's the imbalance in one-sided relationships. You keep pouring, keep giving, keep trying to hold it all together. But the cup on the other side never tilts back. Over time, you realize not only are you drained, but you also start to feel your own value being dismissed. There's a more subtle version of this type of person. The exploiters, the users. They don't just come to you for a little comfort. They turn you into a tool. They take your time, your energy, your money, even your reputation. And the dangerous part is how skilled they are at hiding their intentions. At first, they seem thoughtful, sweet, as if they want you to feel special. But once you begin to see the pattern, that they only appear when they need something, it's often too late. By then, you've been caught in a spiral of guilt and false responsibility. They know exactly how to make you feel that saying no makes you selfish. That setting boundaries means you're not good enough. Do you see it now? This is no longer simple selfishness. This is manipulation. They trap you in guilt, so you keep giving even when you're already empty. In psychology, this is similar to a form of parasitism. They feed off your energy to survive, but never nourish themselves. You become their fuel source. And when you're drained, they simply move on to another charging station without a word of regret. I remember sitting in a group therapy session once. A woman named Linda broke down in tears. She shared how she had spent years helping a close friend through depression, only to face her own crisis and be met with distance. Not only did that friend not show up, she even blamed Linda, saying, "You're not like you used to be." I'll never forget the look in Linda's eyes when she asked, "Do I only matter when I'm strong and giving?" That question haunted me, because I've asked it too many times in my own life. How many of us have given until we were exhausted, only to realize the friendship was never truly mutual? If we look deeper, we'll see that the root of this problem lies in our fear of being abandoned. We allow ourselves to be used because we think that if we stop giving, they'll leave. And then we'll be left with nothing but emptiness. But the truth is this: the emptiness from losing an unbalanced relationship is always less painful than the emptiness of losing yourself. Jung once spoke of projection, the way people cast their inner voids onto others, expecting them to fill it. But no one can fill that void. The more you try, the more depleted you become. Meanwhile, they only grow more convinced that they can't live without you. It's a dangerous illusion. Imagine you are a pitcher of water. The selfish person is someone who just sticks a straw in. At first, you think, it's okay, I have enough to give. But over time, you notice the pitcher is running dry, and they never once pour anything back in. Worse, they blame you, saying, why aren't you the same anymore? You've changed. You may have heard people say, it's hard to find true friends. But the truth is, you don't need many. You just need those who know how to give and receive, who respect the balance. A true friend doesn't just show up when they need something. They're there when you're quiet, when you're vulnerable. They don't need you to be strong all the time, because to them, you are more than just a resource. You are a human being. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, do not waste the remaining part of your life in thoughts about others. When you do not refer your thoughts to some object of common utility, we can't waste our lives serving those who only care about their own gain. Because true relationships must serve a common purpose, mutual support, and shared growth. So what should you do when you realize you're caught in an unbalanced spiral? It's not always easy to walk away, but you can start by asking, does this relationship nourish both sides? If the answer is no, try stepping back. Try no longer being their endless source of energy and see what happens. If they truly value you, they'll recognize the imbalance and change. But if they get angry, blame you, or disappear, then the truth is clear. You were never a friend in their eyes. You were a means to an end. And you deserve so much more than that. Remember, in the garden of life, you are not just fertile soil for anyone to plant whatever they please. You are also a flower, a tree, a living being that needs care. If someone only comes to harvest your fruit but never waters your roots, then maybe it's time to close the gate. There's something strange and beautiful that happens when you dare to let go of selfish relationships. New doors open. You begin to meet real friends. Not many, but genuine. They don't leave you empty. They leave you fuller after every conversation. And one day, you'll realize, giving doesn't have to be a burden. It becomes a joy. Because now, when you pour into someone else's cup, you know that when you're thirsty, they'll pour back into yours. That is real friendship. That is real connection. And those are the kind of people worth keeping in your life circle. Some relationships don't break because of arguments. They don't end because of distance. They slowly die in silence. When trust begins to leak away, little by little, like a roof dripping during a long rain, you don't notice it right away. Only after some time do you realize the room in your heart has grown damp, cold, and no longer warm enough to stay in. I remember the first time I discovered that a close friend had lied to me. It wasn't a major lie, just a small detail, a truth kept hidden. But it was enough to make me pause. If the small things aren't honest, how can I trust the bigger ones? From that day on, even though we still met and talked, I always felt a thin, invisible wall between us. A lie is a dagger to the heart of trust. And the scariest part isn't being deceived. It's that you stop trusting your own instincts. Every word that follows, true or not, becomes suspect. You look into their eyes, and instead of seeing a friend, you see a mask. Some people lie out of habit. They exaggerate to be admired. They twist the truth to avoid responsibility. They hide facts for personal gain. What they don't realize is that every lie is like a stone tossed into a still lake. At first, it's just a ripple, but those ripples spread and distort the entire surface, and one day, the lake no longer reflects the truth. If you've ever lived in a relationship like that, you'll understand. Constant doubt is more exhausting than any argument, because in an argument, at least the truth comes out. But in a sea of lies, you drift with nothing to hold on to. There are also people who don't break trust with lies, but in other ways. They cross your boundaries. At first, it might be a personal question that goes too far, or borrowing something without asking. But as it happens more and more, you begin to feel their intrusion grow deeper. They step into your space as if it's their right. I once had a coworker who constantly sent work messages at midnight. If I didn't respond, he'd act upset the next day. At first, I thought I should be understanding. Maybe he was under pressure. But over time, I felt like I had no boundary left between work and life. My phone would ring, and my heart would race, even during personal moments. I started living in a constant state of tension, like my house had no doors and anyone could walk in at any time. Have you ever felt that way? When someone refuses to accept no as an answer, when you set a boundary and they make you feel guilty, as if you're the one being heartless, they might say, I just need a little help, or you've changed. But the truth is, they're not angry because you said no. They're angry because they can no longer control you. On a deeper psychological level, Jung once spoke about the shadow, the repressed parts of ourselves. People who disrespect boundaries often avoid facing their own shadows, especially the fear of rejection. Instead of confronting that fear, they invade other people's space to prove their importance. But even if their actions are unconscious, the wounds they leave are real. You feel unsafe. You see, trust and safety aren't abstract concepts. They are the foundation. Without them, any relationship is like a house built on sand. It might look beautiful, even impressive, but the moment a storm comes, it collapses. I still remember a conversation I had with a middle-aged man on a long flight. He told me his marriage lasted 15 years, until he discovered his wife had lied to him many times. He said, "The most painful part wasn't the betrayal. It was realizing I'd lived 15 years not knowing what was real and what was fake." His eyes, in that moment, looked empty, like someone lost in his own home. That's what it feels like when trust is broken. You don't just lose the other person, you lose the inner certainty you once had. You begin to question the world around you. So, how do we face this? Saying goodbye isn't always easy, but at the very least, you can set boundaries. You can say, "I need honesty." You can say, "This is where I draw the line." And then, watch how they respond. If they truly value you, they will learn to respect those lines. But if they continue to lie, continue to cross the line, then you have a choice to make: hold on to them or hold on to your peace. Marcus Aurelius once said, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." A simple sentence, but a guiding light. You deserve to be surrounded by people who treat truth and respect as a given, not an exception. Imagine your life as a house. You have the right to lock the door. You have the right to choose who comes in. And you have the right to say no. Someone who breaks your trust is like someone poking holes in your roof. Someone who ignores your boundaries is like someone walking into your room without knocking. You can patch the roof. You can remind them to knock. But if they keep breaking things, then the only way to protect your house is to change the locks. And more than anything, trust your intuition. When your heart says something feels wrong, don't ignore the signs just because you're afraid of losing a relationship. What you might lose by staying too long is your own inner peace, trust, and safety. They are not luxuries. They are basic needs. You don't have to beg for them. You just have to choose people who know how to protect them, just as you protect theirs. And once you find relationships like that, where truth is respected and boundaries are honored, you will feel your soul settle, like a house with a strong foundation. No matter how loud the storm outside, you'll be able to sit quietly, breathe deeply, and know that you are safe. There's a moment that seems small, but carries invisible weight. It's the moment you share a joy, and the other person stays silent, not because they're busy, not because they haven't had time to react, but because in their eyes, you see envy. They smile, but that smile doesn't reach their eyes. And in that instant, you realize your joy has just become a burden for someone else. I once experienced that at a birthday party. I shared that I had just made a major breakthrough at work. The room lit up with cheers and congratulations. But one close friend stayed quiet. She raised her glass, gave a faint smile, and said, "Well, I guess you just got lucky." It was a passing comment, but it cut deep. In the midst of all the laughter, I felt my heart shrink. That's what it feels like when your success makes someone else uncomfortable. Joy suddenly turns into guilt, as if you've done something wrong by moving forward on your own path. Some people simply can't celebrate sincerely with others. To them, your success is like a mirror reflecting their own stagnation or failure. Instead of feeling inspired, they feel threatened. Instead of seeing you as an ally, they see you as a rival in a race they never really wanted to join. What makes it harder is that people like this often hide behind concern. They still congratulate you, but their words carry a subtle blade. "Yeah, but you're still not at A's level." Or, "Lucky timing, nothing too special." They diminish you with comparisons and comments that seem harmless, but pierce deeply. Have you noticed? Joy only feels complete when it's shared. When you achieve something, your natural instinct is to tell someone. But when the listener receives it with envy, instead of lifting you up, you shrink. your happiness gets suffocated in the heavy air of jealousy. I once spoke with a young woman who told me that every time she achieved something academically, her mother wouldn't celebrate. Her mother didn't criticize, but just remained silent, as if her success was a burden. Over time, that young woman stopped sharing her joys. She was afraid that every time she shone, her mother would dim, so she learned to hide her light just to keep others comfortable. Hearing her story, I felt my heart tighten, because so many of us have lived through the same thing. We shrink to make others feel better. We suppress our joy to keep the peace. But doesn't that feel unfair? Why should we need permission to be happy? Deep in psychology, Jung once spoke of the archetype of the rival, the person who constantly compares, who lives in an imaginary competition. When you're near them, you feel pulled into a race you never signed up for. Your success becomes their finish line. And in this game, no one wins, because you don't want to compete and they never feel like they're enough. Marcus Aurelius once said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to think, to enjoy, to love." The greatest privilege of being human isn't to be better than someone else, but to live fully in your own light. If someone can't celebrate with you, perhaps the problem isn't you. It's the shadow they carry inside themselves. Can you remember the last time someone truly celebrated with you? Maybe it was a friend who hugged you tightly when you got good news. Maybe just a short message that said, "I'm proud of you." These moments are small, but they make your heart swell. They amplify joy. That's what real sharing feels like. If you're listening now and realize that you've had to dim your joy, I want to say this: you're not alone. So many of us have felt this, and that's why I invite you to share your story. Leave a comment below. Tell me and others about a time when someone reacted with envy. How did you handle it? Your story might be the light that helps someone else out of the dark. And if this message resonates with you, I'd be truly grateful if you clicked like or shared this video with someone who might need to hear it too. Because sometimes, a small reminder is all it takes for someone to find the courage to stop hiding their light. And if you'd like to continue this journey with me, exploring the deeper layers of our relationships and inner world, subscribe to the channel. That's how we stay connected. It lets me know these words are reaching someone, that I'm not walking alone. Coming back to this, a healthy relationship always makes you feel proud of who you are. A true friend doesn't compete. When they see you succeed, the joy in their eyes makes you feel like they've won too, because they know that when you grow, your friendship grows too. Imagine if you had even just a few people in your life like that. People who truly rejoice when you're happy. You would already be incredibly rich. They are like candles. When you shine, they don't fade. Their light grows brighter in reflection. Never dim your light just to make someone else more comfortable. Never bow to envy. You were not born to be small. You were born to bloom, to shine, to live fully in your joy. And if someone cannot celebrate with you, let them stand on the sidelines. Life is full of people ready to step into your circle, to take your hand, and dance with you when you're happy. And believe me, those are the ones who are truly worth keeping. There's a kind of pain that doesn't come from a punch, nor from harsh insults. It comes from those quiet moments that make you feel small in front of a crowd. Have you ever sat at a dinner table, everyone laughing, when suddenly someone makes a joke at your expense? A joke that cuts right into your deepest insecurity, turning the whole room into an explosion of laughter, while you force a smile and feel a silent wound open inside. I remember one night at a company party, a colleague stood up and told a funny story about me, something deeply personal I had once shared in confidence. He turned it into entertainment. Everyone laughed, and I sat there frozen, hiding my shame behind a stiff smile. In that moment, I didn't feel like an adult among colleagues. I felt like a child, exposed in front of the class. Some people are like that. They don't care about the line between private and public. They don't understand that some things, once exposed in the wrong setting, become wounds. And the most dangerous part? They always have a shield ready. I was just joking. That sentence is like a slamming door, shutting down any response you might have. If you express your hurt, you're told you're too sensitive. If you stay silent, you drown in humiliation. It's an unfair game, one where you have no way to win. Embarrassment doesn't just sting in the moment, it lingers. After that party, I went home and couldn't stop replaying that scene. Each time it came back, my heart tightened, like I was reliving the moment under a harsh spotlight. Over time, I found myself becoming more guarded, even with laughter. I learned to hide parts of myself to avoid becoming someone else's punchline. In psychology, this is a form of emotional violation. When someone humiliates you in front of others, they don't just take away your comfort in that moment. They steal your sense of safety in the community. You begin to live on alert, constantly asking, will they turn me into a joke again next time? But there's another kind of person. They don't humiliate you out loud, but they silently drain you. They're like a vacuum, pulling energy from you every time you're near. Have you ever walked away from a meeting with someone and felt like you just ran a marathon? Not because you were physically active, but because your mind felt exhausted. They've poured into you all their worries, complaints, their personal tragedies, and then they leave feeling lighter, while you're left with a heavy heart. I once had a friend like that. Every time we met, she would talk nonstop about betrayals, misfortunes, and heartbreaks. I listened, sympathized, offered comfort, but after years of this, I realized nothing ever changed. Yesterday's problem would return today, and likely again tomorrow. She didn't want solutions, only to vent. And slowly, I became her emotional trash bin. The truth is, people who drain your energy don't always do it on purpose. They're not evil, but they get lost in the role of the victim. And you become the unwilling audience to that drama. If you stop, they accuse you of being heartless. If you continue, you burn out. Psychologically, this is like lending someone your flame to keep them warm. But instead of lighting their own fire, they just keep sitting beside yours until the coals turn cold and both of you are left in darkness. The most dangerous part is when you start believing it's your responsibility, that you're supposed to carry their sadness. But ask yourself, if a relationship only ever leaves you exhausted, is it truly friendship or just a form of parasitism? Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You can't control how much someone complains or how much they try to pull from you, but you can control whether you allow it to continue. You have the right to set boundaries. You have the right to say, I'm listening, but I also need space for myself. And if they respect you, they will understand. If they only want to take and never give back, then the choice becomes clear. Remember, those who humiliate you and those who drain you share one thing in common. They keep you in a constant state of tension. With the first, you're always afraid of being laughed at. With the second, you're always bracing yourself to carry a weight that isn't yours. And both take away your freedom, the freedom to be yourself. Life is too short to sit through dinners where you are the punchline. Life is too precious to become a container for someone else's sadness. You deserve relationships where you can exhale, laugh freely, and share without fear of being used. If this message brings someone to mind, someone who always makes you feel guarded, or someone who leaves you drained, maybe it's time to ask yourself, do I still have the strength to stay? Because sometimes, the greatest act of courage isn't holding on, it's letting go. And when you step out of those draining cycles, something amazing happens. Your energy returns, your laughter returns, your confidence returns, because you've stopped letting people define you who only know how to take. You were not born to be someone's entertainment. You were not born to be an endless source of energy. You were born to live, to be happy, to be fully and freely yourself. There are moments in life when we need to pause and ask ourselves, who is sitting beside me on this train called life? Some people are true companions. They bring light, laughter, and a warm hand to hold when we're shaken. But there are also strangers who board only to take advantage, leave behind their trash, and get off the train once they've gotten what they came for. That question isn't easy to answer, because sometimes we've grown so used to someone's presence that we can't tell what they truly bring to our lives. It's like living too long in a dusty room. You no longer notice the dust, only the suffocation without knowing why. In the previous chapters, we've looked at 10 different faces: the critic, the belittler, the liar, the envious, the boundary breaker, the energy drainer. Each of these faces is a mask of shadow, and when we allow too many of these masks around us, the light within us begins to fade. But the important truth is, you have the power to choose. You can choose to step out of the dusty room. You can choose to get off the train at this station, to no longer sit beside passengers who bring nothing but exhaustion. You can choose to change the lock on the home of your soul, opening the door only to those who know how to respect and love you. I know, it's easier said than done, Because leaving someone behind means leaving memories, comfort, and the illusion that one day they might change. But ask yourself, how long can you wait? How many years can you sacrifice holding on to hope that may never come true? I once met a woman named Emma. She spent over 10 years in a marriage where her husband constantly diminished her. Every time she wanted to do something for herself, he smirked. Every time she succeeded, he found a way to belittle it. Emma endured. She tried. She hoped. Until one day she looked in the mirror and didn't recognize the woman staring back. The light in her eyes was gone. That's when she decided to leave. When she told me her story, Emma said, "The hardest part wasn't leaving him. The hardest part was letting go of the version of myself who believed I wasn't enough. The version who thought I had to suffer in order to be loved." That sentence echoed in me like a bell. Because so often, we're not stuck because of others. We're stuck because of the image we cling to. We think that if we're patient, if we give one more chance, they'll change. But really, what needs to change is us. The belief that we don't deserve better. Jung once said that the path to individuation is the journey of facing the darkness to find the true light within. And maybe relationships are the same. We have to dare to face the faces that hurt us in order to recognize that we deserve different ones. People who don't make us feel small, but help us grow. Marcus Aurelius also wrote, "Choose not to be harmed, and you won't feel harmed. Don't feel harmed, and you haven't been." A simple message, but a powerful one. We can't control the actions of others, but we can choose not to let them destroy us. You see, choosing doesn't always mean fighting. Sometimes choosing simply means letting go. Not because you're weak, but because you finally understand. You have the right to walk a wider, freer path. Imagine you're carrying a heavy backpack. Inside are stones, each one a toxic relationship, a hurtful comment, a jealous glance, a time you were used. You've carried it for years. Your back aches, your steps slow down. But you keep holding on, thinking this weight is just a part of life. Now imagine setting that backpack down. Feel your shoulders lighten, your breath deepens, your steps grow stronger. That is what it feels like to release relationships that no longer serve your peace. And when you are lighter, you create space for other things. For true friendship. For love that doesn't require pretending. For connections where you are allowed to be fully yourself. Life never leaves you empty. When you dare to let go of the old, the new will arrive. Maybe as you listen to this, a name has appeared in your mind. Someone who has taken too much from you, yet you still haven't found the strength to walk away. If that's the case, I just want you to ask yourself, what will I lose by holding on? And what might I gain by letting go? No one else can answer that for you. But remember, you have the power to choose. You always have that power. Because in the end, happiness doesn't come from the number of people around you. It comes from the quality of those people. You don't need the whole world to cheer for you. You just need a few people who are truly there. To laugh with you, to cry with you, to live with you. And more than anyone, you need yourself, whole, not chained by belittling words, not bound by lies, not drained by endless complaints. You need yourself, free and at peace. If there's one thing I hope you carry with you from everything I've shared, it is this. You have the power to choose. The power to choose who is worthy. The power to choose truth over deception, respect over intrusion, joy over jealousy, peace over chaos. Because true happiness doesn't come from how many people surround you. It comes from having the courage to keep the right ones close and let the wrong ones go. And when you do that, you'll see something beautiful. Life never lacked light. The light was always there, waiting for you to clear away the shadows so it could finally shine through. Thank you for staying with me until the very end of this story. If this message touched your heart, please give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you'll never miss the next journey we take together. Your support means the world to me.